The HomeTech podcast is supported by you. To find out more, go to HomeTech.fm/support. This is the HomeTech podcast for Friday, March 6th from Sarasota, Florida, with no COVID-19. I'm Seth Johnson.
And from Denver, Colorado, I'm Jason Griffing. So you're hanging in there, Seth? Are you hunkered down? You got your toilet paper and hand sanitizer and foodstuffs?
Yeah, I had to go to the doctor yesterday, and people are losing their minds. But we're kind of like ground zero here. I guess we had somebody just kind of like end up in the hospital with pneumonia, but turns out they had the COVID-19, and like there's an entire hospital in our town that's just on quarantine, like the whole hospital.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's kind of wild. So nasty little, and I guess it like for me and you, according to my doctor, for me and you, it's just like a cold with sniffles. But for like older people, of course, Florida here, it's a bigger problem. So. Hopefully this kind of just blows over. That's what everybody's hoping on.
It's super scary. The chat room's really hopping tonight. Thanks everyone for being here. We've got Greg saying Costco is out of toilet paper. Greg's up in Canada. Forgive me, I forget which part exactly.
It's only one part of Canada.
Yeah, right. It's Canada.
Canada.
Who cares? Matthew's joining us from Australia. Crazy run in Australia, he says. I know here in Denver, I went to the store just yesterday because we were hearing that all the stores were like out of toilet paper, and we're looking at our toilet paper stash and we're going like, forget the emergency. We're almost out of toilet paper. And like, I had to go to the store and literally I took a picture. The shelves were almost completely empty at our local grocery store.
Why are people buying toilet paper?
Because apparently the CDC came out and said like, you need to be prepped for like at least a 2-week lockdown. And immediately everyone's first concern was
toilet paper. Oh, that explains why my Costco was out of like their Costco brand of toilet paper the other day.
Everyone's. It's crazy. It's everywhere.
I guess I'm not paying attention to it enough.
So, it's an interesting dynamic, right? Because it then forces you to like go out and buy toilet paper. Even if I wasn't worried about it, now I am because everyone's running out of toilet paper. So I had to, they had some left and I bought a couple of packs just to have some around, but it's it's just that whole dynamic of runs on food and groceries and stuff is probably the scariest part to me, honestly.
I'm looking behind me. I'm sitting on 30 rolls of gold over there.
Yeah, you are. It's going to be the new currency soon.
Yeah, pay in squares.
Yeah, Bruno is in the chat room from. I know Bruno's based in Hong Kong, so. Bruno, if you have a minute, let us know how things are going where you're at. Would love to hear from you. Hopefully everyone is not... he says we've been out of toilet paper here in Hong Kong for several weeks.
Well, I mean, the whole cold and flu thing sounded bad enough, but now that we're talking about running out of toilet paper, I'm getting kind of worried.
That's right. So, be scared.
I mean, this doesn't make any sense at all. So
it's a frightening time for sure, but you got to try to keep these things in perspective. And again, I think thankfully for those of us who are young and healthy, it doesn't sound like it's a major threat, but it's still really, it's frightening, not dismissing the gravity of it. It's a pretty scary deal when something like this comes out. And we like literally as human beings we're powerless at this point effectively.
It's a nice little virus. And there's nothing that we have, no drugs that we have that interact with this particular virus. It just doesn't. Everything just passes right by it. So, it'd be interesting to see what happens. I know that they're canceling a lot of tech conferences, to kind of like mitigate people from traveling all over the world. Like, Google I/O has been canceled. I know all of the Facebook events have been canceled. Like big developer conferences, which would bring in people from all around the world into one spot. We've got a big event in Tokyo coming up, the Olympics, and I think that one's a big kind of hanging question mark. And I told my wife that the other day, and she was like, "Oh God, I mean that's horrible. I mean it's horrible to happen, but like think about if you're training, like you can't just train and like come back in the next couple of maybe they delay it like till next year or something. Like you can't just stop training. Like you've got to train now somehow for the next. I don't know how they're going to do that. Like if they have to cancel the Olympics, that'd be just devastating.
Crazy.
Devastating.
Well, anyways, last comment here. Bruno says, we've been through this all for a few weeks now here. Nothing really bad has happened. All is back to normal in the shops now. So
It's good to hear.
Hopefully you've got enough TP to get you through this little panic run on toilet paper, and it should all calm down soon.
Well, now that I know that I'm going to need to save that toilet paper, I'm not going to use as much.
Yeah,
as I normally do.
Be sparing. Yeah. All right. Well, enough about that. I'm sure everyone's getting their fill of coronavirus news from all over the place. But good night to have a lot of people in the chat room and a very international crowd. So kind of interesting to see all over the world. This is going on. But anyways, let's, what do you say, jump into some home tech headlines here?
Let's do it.
Last year, AT&T announced plans to launch yet another TV streaming service called AT&T TV, original title there, to its already crowded lineup. Now we know exactly what that service will look like. The new service will offer largely the same channels as the existing DirecTV service, but it'll come over the internet via an Android streaming TV box rather than a satellite dish. So pretty interesting move here. The box is free to subscribers, although it says additional devices cost $120. So I guess you get one with the service. I was a little bit confused by that. It says it can record up to 500 hours of TV and comes with Netflix and other streaming apps, much like Comcast's X1 cable box. And finally, channel-wise, you can expect everything you'd find on DirecTV, although the new service does not have the NFL Sunday ticket.
Interesting. They're still calling it AT&T TV. AT&T. That's probably the hardest one to pronounce. AT&T TV.
It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, does it?
No, I thought HBO Max was odd, but this one I think takes the cake. This one's the hardest one to say.
They got him trumped.
Yeah.
It's interesting, like the way it's structured. I mean, it's very much, it's technically a streaming service, right? It comes over IP, but the very phrase streaming service today has come to connote something different than this, in a sense, right? Like this is very much more like a linear TV package that basically is just replacing the satellite infrastructure and all of the costs and acquisition costs and things like that associated with it. So, that's the business case. Like, get rid of all the dishes and the legacy hardware that goes with them, and see if you can get all those customers over onto a cheaper infrastructure to support, I suppose.
It's just weird you need this box, right? Like, isn't that strange? Like, why do you need this? Why isn't this just an app? Why do you need this AT&T TV box to pay? And for if you have more than one TV, it's going to be $300-$400, I guess.
Yeah, that is interesting.
It's really weird. Just make this an app and hook it up to your Apple TV and call it a day.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I wonder. I don't know. I'm certainly not a technical expert with hardware programming or anything like that, but I just wonder if there's something special about the hardware that's required to, I don't know, parse out the signal. You're right, though. It is an interesting question. Like, it would seem, if, to the point I made a couple minutes ago, if AT&T is doing this because they want to lower acquisition costs and support costs associated with hardware, why have hardware in the first place?
Right. Yeah, that's my. I mean, even going this route definitely will save them lots of money on reducing hardware, right? Because they're not going to have to worry about DirecTV boxes and satellite dishes, and then all the the LNB things and all the little splitter things you have to hook up your DirecTV system. I mean, those have gotten easier and then somewhat harder to figure out over the last couple of years. Used to, you had a dish and you ran the wires down in from the dish down into the box or into this weird splitter thing, and you ran it out from there to all the boxes in the house, and you were good to go. And it's not quite like that anymore. I think there's only I don't know. It's stranger now, and it's harder for me to wrap my head around. And I'm glad that there's other people that have to worry about that, not me.
Yeah. Yeah, some good dialogue in the chat room. Maybe hardware encryption, Greg says not everyone has a media streaming device, which is of course true, but they're so cheap and commoditized now. So who knows? It is a cable box, but with IP, says Matthew. So, hard to say, but interesting offering. It'll be interesting to see how this one does. Again, it kind of falls into a a middle ground a little bit between traditional linear TV and streaming, but from a typical just average consumer's perspective, the pricing and the model are much more similar to traditional TV offerings than what most people think of when you say streaming service.
Right. See what happens with it. Seems like an interesting offering. According to a massive report from Coldwell Banker, the inclusion of wellness products in homes is one of the most desired features among luxury buyers. The Coldwell Banker report, titled "The Report: 2020 Global Luxury Market Insights," that's very corporate, Coldwell Banker, found that while 81% of survey respondents said home automation technology is still the most wanted feature in the home, many luxury buyers are looking for more. According to the Global Wellness Institute, this is really a thing, GWI, the wellness real estate industry grew 6.4% annually from 2015 to 2017 and is expected to reach $198 billion in 2022, with a lot of this growth being driven by an increased consumer desire to lead a, quote, wellness lifestyle. I'm not sure you can hear the sarcasm and just, I don't know.
Dripping.
Dripping from my voice. This is clearly a fad, one of those fad things that they're using to sell stuff with these days. I don't know. And
you think?
I mean, just it's
well,
fine.
What's Coldwell Banker's angle? I mean, why do they care if?
Don't they write real estate? They write don't they sell homes? So I think that's probably their goal is to figure out a different way to sell homes to people who think they want a yoga studio or something in their house.
That's certainly a possibility. I think the jury is still out on the home wellness thing. It is certainly getting a lot of attention right now, and I think there are some interesting possibilities, but I don't know. I have a hard time wrapping my head around exactly what the model looks like. I feel like it's one of those things that's really attractive when you just look at it on the surface and you're like, oh, that's got to be a huge market. Of course, people want to be healthy. Technology can enable that. We're a home technology company, so there's got to be an angle there. And so I think conceptually that makes sense, but I don't know, there's still a lot of experimentation and figuring out to be done to figure out if this can actually be a viable model, I feel like.
This is one of those, it's following this will be aging in place conversations and all of the other things that just kind of try to tack technology onto something that probably doesn't need it. I don't know. I'm very bearish on this particular topic. I just don't see it amounting to very much.
Yeah, it says, as it turns out, luxury home buyers believe a place where they live plays a critical role in promoting their overall sense of wellness, whether it's through air filtration systems, circadian lighting, or other wellness or biophilia-focused products. I can't get past that word, biophilia. But anyways. I don't know. It says, for integrators, the message is clear. It's time to get with the program and embrace the category and learn how to take advantage of it while the trend remains hot, or while the trend while it remains hot. I don't know. I would modify that slightly if I was still an integrator. This is something I'd be paying attention to, but I wouldn't necessarily be investing a ton of my time and energy into it just yet.
Yeah, I mean, if you find a niche, right? If you find a niche, I think I've heard of the Reva guys talking about how they're going to do wellness rooms. They're already designing high-end theaters, man. They've already got the clientele. And if you can sell a high-end wellness room that can do fancy lighting and make you feel like you're on a beach when you're not, why not sell into that if you can't? But I don't know. If that has to be your niche, I wouldn't go out of my way to try and sell this into, a market that doesn't find value in something like this. You definitely have to be,
because I do think in some markets there's probably pull for this, but uber high end, I'm thinking back to my days as an integrator in Beverly Hills and stuff.
Right.
I can totally see the Hollywood crowd latching onto this and being I need this in my home. And so if that's happening in your market, absolutely take a look at it and figure out how you can make it work. But don't try to force it, I think is is the way I'd be thinking about it. All right, moving on here to our next story. Best Buy is on a roll, and much of it has to do with its successful in-home installation and service strategy. The giant CE retailer and custom installation company just compiled its 12th straight quarter with sales growth. Going to read a few highlights here from CE Pro, where they summarized the story and specifically focusing on a couple of the angles that I find particularly interesting, because of course this came from their quarterly earnings report, and there's a whole bunch you could dissect there in terms of overall sales numbers and things like that. But I think the two things that are really noteworthy in this story are, number one, the in-home experience that Best Buy is really focused on. If you research Best Buy at all, I did a blog post on this a while back. I'll have to dig it up. But something I think a lot of people don't necessarily realize is how successfully Best Buy has turned things around. And they were in a lot of trouble not that long ago. I forget my timelines, and so I don't want to misstate anything, but there was a big turnaround, and what they've done overall as a company is pretty darn impressive in the day and age of online shopping and Amazon and all of that, given the retail footprint that they've got. And a major component of that strategy, it's had several different iterations, but has always been about putting the experience over the technology. And so first they focused on the in-store experience, and they really changed. I mean, think back to what Best Buy looked like in the grand scheme of things not that long ago. You'd go in there and the entire middle of the store was full of like CDs and DVDs. Remember that? Remember those days?
Yeah.
And, there was some space on the edge for other stuff, but all of that square footage had to be rethought. And so now you go in, it's a totally different experience. Anyways, fast forward, they have done a pretty good job of figuring that out, or so they think, and the stock price bears that out. The next big push for them now is this idea of the in-home experience, of extending that experience out of the store and into the home. So a couple of components here. Number one, the in-home consultation program, and number two, the total tech support program. I think those are really the big things that, as anyone with any interest in home technology, especially the professionals, paying attention to that. So it says the company is continuing to focus on the in-home experience for customers. This is a big contributor to its success, which has seen its stock price rise over 66% in the past year. Quote, during fiscal 2020, we expanded our in-home consultation program from 530 to 725 advisors. This is CEO Corey Berry. Those advisors conducted more than 250,000 free in-home consultations. High satisfaction rates on these, net promoter score of 87, she told investors. That's a really high score. And from that service, Best Buy is seeing growth in repeat purchases by those customers.
Brick and mortar's back, baby.
Yeah. So that in-home consultation program, I think there's some great takeaways there for home technology professionals to really focus in on that segment of our audience for now. This idea of providing these regular check-ins with your clients. At One Vision, part of our platform with our partners, we call them tech reviews. Same idea, like touch base with your clients, once or twice a year. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Go in there and refresh them on the training. If there's some simple issues, fix them. But to be clear, this is not like a preventative maintenance visit. It's a relationship building visit.
Right.
Get them more retrained, comfortable with their technology, address any little nagging things or questions they have, talk about potential upgrades, things like that. And, obviously Best Buy is a very different model than a traditional integrator, but I think there are parallels here, clearly, and things we can take away.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. That was one of the big things I think a lot of integrators miss out on is going back. Like, you work so hard to get a client, right? And then you get the job and you finish the install and then you're on to the next one. And you're just like, you never go back and they'll call in for service or whatever, but you never go back and actually talk to those people and say, hey, do you want to, it was always one of the sales things you would hit when you talk to any sales class in CEDIA or anything around there, go back and talk to the people who have already bought from you before. They already have money invested in you. There's already a psychological barrier for them to bring their money somewhere else. Just go back to them and see if they need anything else. And if they do, they're going to buy it from you because they've already bought from you. So it's like one of those basic things that I think a lot of guys still miss these days. I know that we definitely did when we were running well, just about every shop I was in, it was just like, I'll get to the next one because,
Yeah, well, it's hard, especially when the economy has been generally good in this country for a very long time. And when you're busy and you're cranking out new projects, the idea of going back to the old ones and the smaller upgrades that can come from that just kind of, from a revenue standpoint, sort of pale in comparison sometimes. And there's also, I think, the fear, sometimes founded, sometimes not, of stirring the pot. Like now there's, okay, well, I go and then uncover all these things, and those things can be hard to bill for sometimes, and all of that is real. So I think conceptually, though, those are the things that you have to face head on, because you're 100% correct. Like, the barrier is gone, the upsell opportunities are there. You have to be efficient and smart about how you structure things, and you have to manage expectations. But if you're just completely ignoring your legacy clients, unless they call that with something that's broken, then you're doing yourself and your clients a disservice. Yeah. I strongly agree with that.
I would too.
There are some real challenges there that shouldn't be ignored. If it was simple, everyone would be doing it. But I think the smart companies are the ones that go and figure out those challenges, face them head on, build a business that can deal with those, and reap the benefits. So the other thing here in the Best Buy story is the Total Tech Support Program. I alluded to that. It says, meanwhile, the company's Total Tech Support Program launched last year for $199 a year, about $17 a month. This is a recurring annual program, continues to shine. Quote, our Total Tech Support Program grew steadily during fiscal 2020 to end the year with almost 2.3 million members. It continues to get strong customer reviews, and members spend more and are twice as likely to opt into other services that we provide than non-members. So I think that's another key point to remember, is like, it's not just about going back and trying to get another one-time sale. It's, as home technology professionals hopefully increasingly think about ways to offer what they do as a service tied to some sort of recurring fee, understand that making that relationship sticky and getting the client from 0 to 1, like getting them used to paying some sort of recurring fee, is the biggest hurdle. And once you get them there, then you've eliminated that barrier set that you talked about. And now the door is open to more of these sort of ongoing premium services, which I think everyone in the industry needs to be thinking about.
Yeah. Yeah, getting the dealer to go from charging. Well, I mean, can you imagine dealers charging $200 a year? Like that would be great for them, right? Every client, $200 a year flat rate. Like that'd be great for dealers, but it's like such a mental barrier, a mental block for most guys to do something like that.
Yeah, it is. It's a mind shift to go have that conversation, for sure. I think that at $200 a year, the vast majority of integrators would probably be really underselling it. There's some really interesting data that we talk about a lot, where Parks Associates did this study back in 2018, and they surveyed, I think it was about 5,000 people, to say, hey, would you be willing to pay for a premium tech support service?
Mm-hmm.
And they found that, like, what they led with the slide was like 45% of people will pay $15 a month for a plan. And that's like, okay, that's kind of interesting to know. But what was really interesting when you look at the slide, and I'll try to dig this up and maybe we can link to it. As the slide expanded out to the right, they had other bars where it was like, it went from $14.99 up to like $20 and then up to like $30 a month. And the number of people, the proportion of people who said they were either likely or very likely to pay for that service, hardly changed at all. So even though the service doubled in cost, almost the same exact number of people said, yes, I would buy that, which tells me that there's not a lot of price sensitivity. It's either customers see the value or they don't.
Yeah.
Right? And so don't underprice it is the point.
Yeah. And I mean, Best Buy is pricing this for the millions of people that have signed up for this, and dealers cannot do that. So, because, for every 100,000 people, or for every one person, there may be 100,000 people that don't use the service, and that's $200 coming from them. That's a lot of money. So, it's interesting. It's interesting that they've been able to kind of turn. Now, I know this isn't like this isn't the only way they've turned around their business, because Best Buy, like you were saying, has been looked like it was going out of business a couple of times here, but it's definitely interesting to see it still standing, and in a way, in the way that it is these days, and all these little type programs they've added on to the packaging of Best Buy, I guess, to be out in front of their customers even more so than they already were. I think there was a thing I read like years ago, which I always like took to heart. It's like Best Buy is in front of their customers 8 times a year. Like whether that be a commercial they see on TV, whether that's a mailer they get in the mail or something like that. That's how much marketing they do. Is like you will see their logo like 8 times a year. Period. So they're always on your mind. And I always thought about that. I was like, how do like I as an integrator get in front of my customer 8 times a year? Like it'd be barely like some of them you'd be driving down the street and you're like, I'm not going to go down this street. I'm going to go around the street. So I'm not in front of my customer. Right. Like you don't want them to see your van. So, but
yeah, and there's some, it's complicated for sure. But I think you got to stare that stuff down and go figure it out. So I just posted a link in the live channel to an article I wrote. This is just about a year ago. So May, 2019, but so it doesn't have a lot of doesn't have any of the most recent data, but it does have a lot of the stuff. We'll include it in the show notes about kind of the turnaround and the strategy. And I think there are some really interesting lessons there for anyone in the business of home technology.
Yeah. One is don't buy a 50,000 square foot warehouse showroom. That would be one. And don't buy many of them and put them in many cities, but that would be my first step.
Well, yeah, Robert said something interesting in the chat room here. Best Buy makes most of their money selling end caps and, quote, store in a store, end quote. They are a real estate / ad company, not a product company anymore.
Yeah. I mean, good pivot for them. I mean, good for them. I mean, really, because I can go to Best Buy, which is not very far away. There's 2 of them in town, and pick up, like, if I need something fast, I can hop right over there and grab it before I can order it online or through distribution or anything like that. Like it's right there. I can get just about anything I need from right over there. So like good for them for keeping the doors open and
right.
At least giving me a convenient place to go pick up USB chargers or something, like.
Yeah, no doubt. No, they've done some really they've done some great things, again, especially when you consider what they've been up against with online and all of that. So cool stuff there. Go check out the article. Keep an eye on Best Buy. They're a really interesting story. I think more so than a lot of people realize if you kind of dig into their history and look at what they've done over the last decade or so. Pretty interesting stuff.
And for a dealer out there, for people who are running their own companies, it's there's takeaways that you can get. There's not like you're not going to be able to do what they're doing at their scale, of course, but you can do a little small part of it and you can do it better and differentiate yourself from, one, your competition, and 2, Best Buy that way. So that'd be my advice on that.
Yeah, totally.
So we talked a little bit about this before, but the consumer electronics industry has been slowly feeling the effects of ongoing outbreak of the coronavirus this year, with latest news citing potential disruptions to the supply chain. And a couple bullet points here. LG backed out of ISE 2020. We talked about a bunch of the things earlier, a bunch of the conferences that'll be shutting down. And exhibitors aren't like, can you imagine being a boss and saying, no, you have to, go spend your time with, 70 or 80,000 people and most of them who are probably sick and shake hands and like, no, nobody's going to do that right now. Everybody's staying home.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah. So it's interesting that the whole supply chain has been kind of halted because of this. Not only the disruptions in the labor force of China, but, just basic sales exhibitions and that kind of thing where people go buy product. Like things are just slowing down in general.
Right. Yeah, it says Reed Exhibitions, the company that operates ISC West, has been forced to close its China pavilion at this year's show due to travel restrictions currently put in place by the U.S. government. It says, let's see, one leading consumer electronics manufacturer which wished not to be named recently had its factory closed for 2 weeks for the protection of its local workforce. And others like Nortec Security and Control are being fully transparent regarding the fluid situation, sending out emails notifying customers of upcoming supply chain delays. We have some text we could read from there if we want to get into that deeper. But, I think it's one thing we didn't talk about. We're kind of joking about that runs on toilet paper and trying to keep this all a little bit lighter and in perspective. But honestly, like, I mean, look at what's happened to the Dow Jones lately.
Yeah.
And that's a huge concern, is what this sort of thing does to supply chains and stuff. And it just starts to have a domino effect, and people get jittery and start selling stocks. And then that makes people get more jittery, who in turn sell more stocks. And like, you just get this cascading effect.
Well, the stock market is based on the futures. It's not based on reality. It's based on the futures. So yeah, it may be hot right now, but we know that they're betting right now that the futures will be slower than they should be, and that's what you're seeing with that. So like, there's something coming. I don't think it's a recession or anything, but there's definitely something like coming that's going to hit us all a couple of months from now. Whether it be a slow Christmas season or holiday season or what like that, like I'm not sure, but there's something definitely coming.
Right. The Nortech email is long. Won't read the whole thing, but it says as a ripple effect, many companies are experiencing supply chain delays and disruptions. It's expected that the impact on shipping timelines around the world could range from days to weeks. We too are experiencing some delays in manufacturing and shipping from the affected regions. And writing to assure you that we are closely monitoring the situation. This is a terrible and unexpected event to many companies. Goes on to say we are diligently working with our suppliers to prioritize production scheduling, the return of personnel, and ensuring that our customers are supported to the best of our ability. So there's more to it than that, but the takeaway, clearly, a company like Nortech, I mean, they're a giant company. I'm curious if SnapAV has issued anything. If not, I have to imagine they probably will at some point soon. Because these bigger companies like SnapAV and Nortech are going to definitely be the ones that'll be, spending the most time and energy kind of monitoring the situation. There's so much at stake for them.
I mean, I know that our vendors that, the story there that says that one that didn't want to be named, like we've heard very similar stories from our vendors who interact directly. Like there's one that's making a cable for us, a cable, like just like an audio cable. And we send it off. He's like, normally I can get this done and shipped back to us, at least some samples of like 500 samples in like a couple of days. But everything's closed right now. So look, you're looking at like 3 weeks before, we're really going to get something to you. So, okay, whatever. It's just an audio cable that we're ordering. Nothing major, but
right.
Like still, even something like that gets kind of put on the back burner when everything kind of slowed down over there. So
totally.
Yeah. It's big and small. It doesn't really matter. The size of the company.
Supply chains are supply chains, right? And as these things come to a halt, it has major ripple effects, as the email said. So we won't belabor it, but I thought it was interesting to note, and definitely something that's front of mind. I'm talking to partners every day at One Vision, and it's certainly coming up. And everyone's trying to figure out, what to do, and trying to take reasonable precautions, but also not do anything rash or panic. I don't think there's any need for that.
Just wash your hands.
And yeah, right.
Keep toilet paper.
Common sense stuff you can do. Go buy toilet paper.
Yeah. Yes.
No, it's crazy. But anyways, we'll include that as well as all the other topics that we've discussed on this week's show in our show notes at HomeTech.fm/293. Staring down the barrel of 300 here, Seth. While you're there, don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletter, which includes weekly show reminders and other occasional updates about all the great things going on here in the world of home tech.
And don't forget, you can join us in the chat room live Wednesday starting 7:30 p.m. Eastern. You can find out more how to do that at HomeTech.fm/live. And I promise next week, the server, I'll figure out what the password is for it and go reboot the thing so it works a little bit better. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. I had some issues with our live stream this week. Chrome users seem to be the ones affected, interestingly.
Yeah.
So...
sorry, Chrome users. We'll get it fixed.
PSA, if you're going to tune in next week, maybe have a second browser handy. But we should get it figured out. Shouldn't be a problem. Let's move on here, Seth. You got a pick of the week this week.
I do. I have never seen this before, and I probably should have come across this stuff years ago. But Jason, have you ever used those stupid Phoenix connectors? Like taking a... sometimes they put them on... I say stupid. I actually love them, but like sometimes they put them on amplifiers, and you have to like... take stranded cable from the speaker wire and like shove it in there, and then like put the little screw down real quick, and then you like pull it out and you're like, oh, I didn't even screw it down on the the cable. So you have to do it all over again.
Yeah, totally.
So there's this little tool that and ends, wire ends. Like usually I'm up on wire ends, and I guess I'm not because I've never seen these in my life. These ferrules, crimping tools, like these little things you put them on the wire and then crimp it down. And it makes these little square connectors, and they slip right into those Phoenix connectors. Makes for a beautiful connection. There's some pictures I
oh yeah, there you go.
I bought some of this on Amazon the other day, and I'm happy to report that it's been delivered to an Amazon locker now that I have to go pick it up or something. I don't really know how that works, but I'll have it tomorrow maybe.
Ferrules is how that's pronounced. I'm glad that was you and not me.
Ferrules, like the dog.
Yeah, these are cool. They're almost like I never used these either when I was in the field, but they're like, you know how you can do like, I think you might have used this exact example, like speaker terminals, and you have and like then there's the banana clips or whatever that you can put. It's like that, but for a Phoenix connector.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
It looks like these get down pretty small. Like they have some little small tiny ones that could go into like security wire. Like I always ran across these in like security wires where you're like bunching a bunch of security wires together and crimp. This would be great to like crimp on top of that and then just shove into the security terminal. But even like on the back of like Control 4 gear, they used to have these. And a lot of the time, most of the time I would say it's speaker wire that I have to deal with that has to go into those types of connectors. So grab this, put this kit in your toolbox, and I think what, for $28 you get $28 and 1,800 pieces. Like clearly it's something we all should have on the truck.
Yeah, that'll pay itself off after like 3 terminations.
Yeah, the rewards come quick.
Oh, I used to hate doing those little tiny ones, especially.
Greg wrote in the chat room, I converted over to them sometime last year. Awesome. I can't wait. I think it's going to be life-changing for me. Even though I don't really like have anything to do with them, I'm going to have them, and that's what's going to matter. Oh,
it's the little things.
Yeah.
You know? Good stuff. All right. Well, if you have any feedback, questions, comments, picks of the week, or ideas for a show topic or guest, give us a shout. Our email address is feedback@HomeTech.fm. Once again, that's feedback@HomeTech.fm, or visit the form at HomeTech.fm/feedback.
And we want to give a big thank you to everyone who supports the show, but especially those who are able to financially support the show through our Patreon page. If you don't know about our Patreon page, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support to learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as $1 a month. Any pledge over $5 a month gets you a big shout out on the show, but every pledge gets you into a invite to our private Slack chat, The Hub, where you and other supporters of the show can gather every day and talk about coronavirus and toilet paper. Evidently, that's all we're going to talk about this week.
Yeah, no doubt. If you're looking for other ways to support the show, we would definitely appreciate a review on iTunes or on your podcast app of choice. Those reviews definitely help more people find the podcast. So take a minute to do that, and or tell a friend about the show. We would really appreciate it.
Yep. I guess that wraps the show up this week, Jason. I got family coming in for the weekend, and I'm gonna have a nice, relaxing weekend. Good weather and the beach. It will be involved. No coronaviruses.
Nice.
Maybe corona. Nice. But no coronavirus.
Yeah, I feel a little bad for Corona.
It's bad branding, but I don't know.
It's not good. I saw a Corona billboard the other day, and like instantly my subconscious was like, coronavirus. That can't be good for sales.
No, it can't be.
Anyways. All right, well, enjoy. Stay safe, and we'll look forward to reconnecting again with you next week.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And Jason, I'll talk to you next week.
All right, take care.